Hello and welcome back to another week in new genre books. My name is Amelia, and from Locus magazine, I'm about to tell you the top new science fiction, fantasy, and horror books being published the week of October 31st, 2023. Starting with science fiction titles this week, we have 4 titles. From editor Jonathan Strawn, who is one of the guests of honor at the World Fantasy Convention this year, we have Communications Breakdown, science fiction stories about the future of connection, out from MIT Press in trade paperback and ebook. This is an original anthology of 10 science fiction stories about the future of connection. Includes an interview by Tim Mon with digital privacy activist Chris Gilliard. Authors include Elizabeth Bear, S.V. Divya, Cory Doctorow, Ian MacDonald, and Premi Mohammed. Part of MIT's 12 Tomorrows series, published in partnership with MIT Technology Review. From neuroscientist George Paxinos, we have A River Divided, out from Amazonas Press in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is an eco-fiction novel with science fiction elements involving a mysterious text and a race to save the Amazon rainforest. A geneticist/amateur archaeologist believes she has found the DNA of Christ and tries cloning him, resulting in identical twins raised apart. From Sarah Suk, we have The Space Between Here and Now, out from Quilltree in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult time slip novel. 17-year-old Amy Rowe has sensory time warp syndrome, a rare condition that causes her to time travel to a moment in her life when she smells something linked to that memory. Amy disappears into a memory of her estranged mom, a moment Amy has never remembered before. And the memory doesn't match up with the story she's always heard from her dad. Amy travels to Korea to unravel the truth about her mother and the reason she keeps getting yanked back to the past. From Eric T. Reynolds, we have The Lost Town of Garrison, out from Hadley Rill in hardcover and ebook. This is a time travel historical novel about a battle over damming a valley in 1937 Kansas, and a woman from the present pulled into the past as both sides try to use time travel in their fight. Next up, horror, we have 4 titles. From Jason Pargin, we have Joey is Too Drunk for This Dystopia, out from St. Martin's in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a darkly humorous horror novel, third in the Zoey Ash series. Zoey Ash, 23-year-old heiress to a criminal empire in a futuristic world of high-tech liars and cutthroats, must learn the rules of a devious game she never asked to play. The gleaming new city of Tabula Rasa is hosting its massive annual music festival, which every year precedes the equally massive annual Drunken Riot. The citizens need a little controlled chaos now and then. Zoey, understandably, fears the chaos will not stay controlled for long. From Nat Cassidy, we have Nestlings, out from Nightfire in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a horror novel. A couple struggling after their first child's complicated birth wins an affordable housing lottery in Manhattan, but things get strange. Ramsey Campbell describes it like this: Nat Cassidy is a master of creeping fear, of urban unease, of uncanny dread, and outright horror. In Nestlings, he brings his considerable imagination to bear on a creature we may think we're all too familiar with, and imbues it with new life, reclaiming it for terror. From Tananarive, we have The Reformatory, out from Saga Press in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a horror novel. In 1950s Jim Crow, Florida, 12-year-old Robbie Stevens Jr. is sentenced to 6 months at the Gracetown School for Boys, a reformatory, for kicking the son of the largest landowner in town in defense of his sister. There, Robbie's talent for seeing ghosts becomes a window to the horrible truth of what happens at the reformatory. From Luke Dumas, we have The Paleontologist, out from Atria in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a horror novel. A paleontologist goes back to his hometown where he sees and hears things he can't explain, suggesting that a prehistoric killer is hiding in the local museum, or maybe something supernatural, or maybe he's just losing his mind. I mean, there was always room for optimism, I guess. And let me take it back a second. Pandora's box, that myth, right, where this woman opens up this box filled with all of the woes of the world, plus hope. In the West, we tend to think that hope is a good thing, that hope is the redeeming quality of that giant mistake of unleashing all this misery in the world. But in the East, first of all, it's a jar, not a box. Easy to tip over a jar. Oops, didn't mean it. And hope is not necessarily an antidote to misery. Hope is actually part of the misery, I think, because hope lets us sort of ignore what's happening a little because we can attach to a future where it's better. So that was a long walk. I suppose what I was trying to say is that we should root for there being a killer in the book, or some supernatural explanation for the plot problem, so that the protagonist dude can maintain his sanity. We did say these were the horror books, and it is Halloween. I'm sort of morally obliged to try to spook you. Next up, fantasy, we have 9 titles. From the charming and best-selling Neil Gaiman, we have What You Need to Be Warm, out from Quiltree in hardcover and ebook. This is an associational picture book of Gaiman's poem made from Twitter responses to the title question, with new illustrations by 13 artists including Chris Riddell, Pam Smythe, and Bagram Ibatualine. From Gene Wolfe, whose work won World Fantasy and Nebula Awards, among others, we have The Wolf at the Door, out from Tor in hardcover and ebook. This is a collection of stories, poems, essays, and ephemera, including some material never seen before. From David R. Slayton, we have Dark Moon, Shallow Sea, out from Blackstone Publishing in trade paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel, the first book in the Gods of Night and Day series. Phoebe, goddess of the moon, is killed by the Knights of the Sun God, and her followers are cast out. Without Phoebe to guide the souls of the dead to the underworld, they linger, feeding on the blood of the living. A child steals a box from the Sun God's temple, and knights follow in pursuit. From Kitch Johnson, who is another guest of honor at the World Fantasy Convention this year, we have The Privilege of the Happy Ending, small, medium, and large stories, out from Small Beer Press in hardcover, trade paperback, and ebook. This is a collection of speculative fiction from the last decade. The stories explore gender, animals, and the nature of stories, and range in form from classically told tales to deeply experimental works. The collection includes the World Fantasy Award-winning The Privilege of the Happy Ending and The Dream Quest of Velet Beau, as well as 2 never-before-published works. From Isabel Ibañez, we have What the River Knows, out from Wednesday Books in hardcover and ebook. This is a young adult fantasy novel, the first in the Secrets of the Nile duology. When Bolivian-Argentinian Inés Oliveira receives word of her globe-trotting parents' tragic deaths, she inherits both their massive fortune and a mysterious archaeologist guardian. Inés sails to Cairo, where the magic tethered to her father's old ring pulls her down a path where she soon discovers there's more to what's going on with her parents than what her guardian would have her believe. From Lina Rather, we have A Season of Monstrous Conceptions, out from Tor.com in hardcover and ebook. This is a fantasy novella. In 17th century London, as a rash of supernatural-looking babies are being born with eyes made for the dark and webbed digits suited to the sea. From the review in Locus by Alexandra Pierce, Sarah is no one special in this world. A 6th child, born a daughter, and with a tail? She was widowed under dubious circumstances, and midwives like her aren't even allowed to become a guild. Nonetheless, Sarah is a forceful and passionate woman, chafing at the restrictions placed on her by society. She wants to experience life. She resents the obstacles in her way, and she certainly doesn't always do what's expected. From Shannon Takaoka, we have The Totally True Story of Gracie Burns, out from Candlewick Press in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult fantasy/magical realism novel. In 1987, 16-year-old Gracie Byrne finds a blank journal in her grandmother's vanity and begins to write stories about a more popular version of herself in it, which then start to come true. Gracie realizes that she can create any reality she wants, from acing tests to winning the attention for previously indifferent classmates. As her ability to change what is into what she wishes it to be grows stronger, though, Gracie starts to second-guess what's real. From the best-selling Jennifer L. Armentrout, we have A Fire in the Flesh, out from Blue Box Press in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy romance novel, 3rd in the Flesh and Fire series. In order to prevent the forces of the Shadowlands from invading and igniting a war of primals, Sarah must convince Colas to relent. But nothing could have prepared her for the cruelty of Colas's court and the shocking truths revealed there. From Angela Montoya, we have Sinner's Isle, out from Joy Revolution in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult fantasy romance. Rosalinda is trapped on Sinner's Isle, the place where young witches are kept trapped until they turn 18, when they are given as prizes in the annual offering. She must flee before that happens, and someone forces the vicious phantoms within her to destroy everything she touches. Her only help comes from Marino, a shipwrecked pirate whose enchanted chain was supposed to lead him to his heart's desire, not the headache Rosa presents. A first novel. That wraps up this week. Thanks for spending some time with us at Locus. We set out to try to tell you about everything going on in the science fiction, fantasy, horror publishing space. If you like books the way we like books, you want to know the books that are just coming into existence. Please like and subscribe so we know we've made contact with actual humans, because we all really need to communicate with someone, and you could be that someone. Locus Magazine and the Locus YouTube channel are a labor of love. We are at Locus Mag or at Locus Magazine on most platforms. You can read more about the science fiction, fantasy, and horror field over at www.locusmag.com or support us on our Patreon. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Come back and see us again soon, and we'll be here next week with more new books.